Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check this out. We got Fidelity, we got Blackrock, we got Bitcoin ETFs, $15 trillion worth of assets under management. We're going to talk about it. 12 days until FedNow. Binance deregistered. We'll tell you where. And guess what else? UK CHAPS, the payment system for high-value payments, just migrated to ISO 2022. We got that and so much more. The Atlanta Fed. Somebody wrote that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.11 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency. The market is off by 0.2%. Good afternoon. 26,500 plus for Bitcoin, 1,700 plus for Ethereum. Tether market cap is 83 billion plus right now, shaving off a few hundred billion since this weekend. 49 cents for XRP. They say, the technical analyst, if we stay above 48 cents on the 3-day candle, we got good news coming. But right now we are at 49 cents and holding, and we're off by 5.1% on the 7-day and up 0.2 in the last 24 hours. Take a look at this. Link to, ladies and gentlemen, this is where you can get the companies, exposure to the companies by buying private equity like Ripple, like Link to itself, like Uphold, like PolySign, and so many others. They even have artificial intelligence companies. Like, guys, I know you love that stuff too, but it goes so quickly on the platform. If you're going to get it, you got to click the link underneath the video, link2.com, and get the private equity now before it goes away. Because sometimes, one of these times, it's going to be the last time. So don't mess around. Click the link and take advantage of it and get yourself some Ripple private equity. I tell you, woo-wee, I'm getting excited about it all. Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. Binance deregisters in the UK amid regulatory woes here. Say it with me. Controlled demolition, ladies and gentlemen. And look, we've also seen, and we're going to see more news today about Fidelity and Bitcoin. Just stay with me a second here. CoinDesk says, JP Morgan says, the release of the Hinman documents in the SEC versus Ripple case is a boost to Ether and will likely trigger a race for decentralization in the crypto market. Spin, 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 spin. And anyone who's confused about this, spin, 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 spin. Oh my goodness. Only JP Morgan could take this and turn it around and simply say that, this whole thing of being ETHgate and the free pass being exposed and the Hinman test, it's going to be good for ETH. Just to be clear, Ripple spends over $100 million, has been fighting these documents for 2.5 years, and is now calling for a special investigation into SEC and Hinman for corruption due to possible bribes from Ethereum investors. And mainstream media is now explaining how these documents are a nothing burger for Ripple and XRP, but great for Ethereum because they confirm its unique status. That's exactly right. This is the kind of crap we're watching here. And don't forget, William Hinman had 15 million reasons to go beyond the Howey test, which is Supreme Court seal approved. Oh yeah, he used the Hinman test, is what they called it in the email documents, which is not an approved test. It is not regulation. It is not legislation. That's what we're looking at here. This is also Sullivan and Cromwell, who worked with Hinman and on the Ethereum speech. Lowell Ness actually said publicly that he wrote the speech and then tracked its growth as it grew, as it was drafted before giving the speech. Well, this report came out September 26, 2018, a little more than 3 months after the Hinman speech was given, which Lowell Ness at the time helped craft. And it described XRP as a virtual currency. Now I'm going to run through all these things, but this is the description it gave here for XRP in a list of all tokens that they were considering a virtual currency. It's unbelievable. Shout out to cowboy.crypto for this thread. It's just amazing. You can see it on my profile. So when someone says that Hinman emails were a nothing burger, Ask them to explain why the Hinman test was used instead of the Howey test. We'll wait. You know, I want to remind people here that with the onset, let's start here. I want to remind people that with the collapse of FTX, the dumpster fire that was, and how they were awarded a special purpose broker dealer license, the way that the now company Prometheum has been awarded, which is backed by China's CCP. I would like to know, and I'd like to share rather, with everyone listening, that when MoneyGram and Ripple partnered, there was something that happened before then. It was Alibaba who tried to buy MoneyGram, and the U.S. government blocked the sale of that company. And Ripple came in soon after. You have to wonder, because Ripple was forced to part ways when the SEC lawsuit dropped. We understand that the SEC and Hinman understood clearly that Ripple and XRP was the competitive technology. Otherwise, why wouldn't they have sued one of the other 800 plus cryptos at the time? It's a real good question, isn't it? One has to wonder, knowing that William Hinman had 15 million reasons to come in and fight for Ethereum and try to get a lawsuit brought against Ripple to slow down the competition. Vitalik Buterin certainly understood it was competition. He slept on Stephen Thomas's couch for a few weeks, and that's where he got the final piece to the puzzle to go create Ethereum, according to Stephen Thomas from Ripple at the time. One has to wonder if the action to sue Ripple was retaliation for the loss of that deal, as well as to stamp down the competition to Ethereum. BitGo CEO Mike Belshey here, he's no cheerleader for Ripple and XRP. He makes that clear in the interview. But he goes on to say here that a victory for Ripple and XRP lawsuit would set a chain reaction on the regulatory front for the crypto world. And he's right. Then there's this gentleman here, Amius Geardy, who tells us here he believes that the SEC case, who he finds XRP to be a security in his own mind too, but he believes that this will go all the way to the Supreme Court. Take a listen.
So I think the Ripple case, like all of these cases, they all do boil down to the same question, which is, are these things securities? And so I think it will have really significant precedential value. That being said, I don't know if they're all consolidated into the same court. And so you could easily have split courts.
Yeah, sure.
That's number one. Number two, no matter what happens, these decisions are getting appealed.
For sure.
So yeah. I think we're in for a pretty long road here.
Do you think the end of the road is the Supreme Court?
I think so. Look, I think there's remember, the Supreme Court doesn't have to hear anything.
Right.
So unless there's a circuit split, not to do like civil procedure on people, and I'm not a lawyer, right? But unless two senior federal courts, so district, circuit, Supreme, unless two different circuit courts come to different positions, there's actually no obligation for the Supreme Court to hear anything. And so I think that it will go all the way up to the lip of the Supreme Court. Now, whether the Supreme Court decides to let the Howey test stand, or whether it decides that it needs to hear this one in that context, I think is TBD. And the reason I think it's important to note this is that the Howey test is pretty well written.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been pretty flexible. And it's been applied to a lot of different cases. And each time the Supreme Court has mostly decided not to rewrite it. So if the Supreme Court were to decide, hey, we kind of like the Howey test, it's in some ways like it's worth reading. It's kind of a very articulate, flexible, strong framework. And courts, even if you just restate it, you're going to restate it with different words. If you restate it with different words, you're actually creating new law.
You're changing it, right?
And so that's where I think, I don't know where this will go. I think it for the crypto side to win, it will have to go to the Supreme Court. Because I think if the Supreme Court, if let's say a circuit court decides to rewrite the Howey test in some way so that so many crypto assets are not securities, I actually think what will happen is the Supreme Court will not let that stand. I think they will, decide to kind of rewrite it. If, on the other hand, the SEC wins at the circuit court, then there is an option for the Supreme Court to basically say, well, the Howey test is good law. Circuit court applied it.
Right.
We don't need to rewrite it at the Supreme Court level.
Yeah.
So there you have it. We could be days away from a decision in the case. And I tell you, I still happen to think that there's going to be some kind of a split decision based on the early sales of XRP from Ripple. And we'll see. And the reason I really lean into that harder today than I have before is because of the Hinman emails released and what has been shared. And if you look at some of that, there is evidence, and that's been shown, that's unsealed, that deals that's favorable for Ripple, and there's stuff that's not so favorable for Ripple. And it does talk about early sales in some of that material. So, it will be interesting to see what Judge Torres' decision is, but I hope that she does address XRP market sales for secondary market holders, retail investors like us, and I hope that we get the decision that we all should get, which is that XRP is not a security for secondary market sales. Meanwhile, BlackRock at 11 trillion assets under management, Fidelity at 4.5 trillion assets under management, combined $15.5 trillion asset under management. John Deaton asked a very good question here. What percentage of that goes to Bitcoin's ETF that both of these companies have now filed for? And you have to wonder if this thing gets approved, knowing that BlackRock has only had one ETF not be approved in their history. I tell you, things are heating up. And there's also talk about the idea of Fidelity acquiring Grayscale. We covered that in this morning's video as well. There's also talk about BlackRock actually working with Coinbase on this ETF. So things are heating up, ladies and gentlemen. And think about things heating up. Think about this. 12 days until FedNow. This is Jess Cheng from back in 2018. Now, I don't need to play it because she's talking about Ripple and XRP and explaining that back in the day to the IMF. But she's also worked intently, only not for Ripple as general counsel, deputy general counsel for Ripple, but she also went to work for the Federal Reserve Board as senior counsel. And that's why it's so important. And don't forget about William S. Barr, former Ripple advisor, also now the vice president of the Federal Board of Governors. There are a lot of things in motion. And then don't forget about this one. There's a cost for not keeping your eye on the ball. And this is Ripple and Stellar, which we covered back when this was released not long ago. And this is an Atlanta Federal Reserve report highlighting that Ripple and Stellar are two blockchain-based companies that are trying to make value transfer cheaper. Ripple provides various services via the use of its native token XRP, which is roughly envisioned as an international payment medium or wholesale settlement coin. How about that? Things are heating up, and they continue to heat up. Breaking right here, Bank of England has today successfully migrated CHAPS. This is the United Kingdom's high-value payment system to ISO 20022. Executive Director of Payments, Victoria Cleland, who told us in 2019 that there would be a big bang cutover from the old system to the new system, and that the old payment rails would run in parallel with the new payment rails for a period of time in case they had to revert back to the old payment rails if something went wrong. This is extremely exciting. And we know ISO 22022 is just a messaging system that has been around for more than a decade. And we know that there is slang used for ISO 20022 tokens, which is not actually a thing. However, the reason that slang exists is because of the improved flexibility of the ISO 20022 messaging itself. That messaging standard's been around for more than a decade, is being adopted as the new standard, doing away and eventually retiring the MT standard. And that's okay. But one of the things that creates flexibility about this standardization of ISO 20022 is that it's so much more responsive to changes in the economies and emerging technologies and innovation, which means the ability to work and be interoperable with the messaging and digital assets alike. So not only are we moving messages in a new standardized way, but we can also code these new digital assets like CBDCs, XRP, XLM, and other assets, and be able to exchange and move value along with that messaging system using said assets. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. This is getting very good. We can't be much further away from a decision, and I know you can't wait, and I can't either. I happen to think we get a decision before FedNow launches. We'll see. I'll catch all of you on the next one.